What's good? What's good? So I'm just gonna cut to the chase. This whole Saquon Barkley stuff, and this is gonna be the last time I'm gonna talk about it. The Giants could have offered and matched what the Eagles gave Saquon Barkley, right? 3 years, 37 point, I think 6 million. The Giants could have doubled that and offer him, let's say, 97.5 million for 4 years. Okay, so you brought back Saquon Barkley. Would the Giants still have money left over to get the acquisitions that they got? Probably not, right? So the Giants had to move off of him. It sucks, but it is what it is. They had to move off of him. Just like how they had to move off of Odell Beckham Jr. As soon as we let him go, we started winning, right? Everything started to click, you know? Because I had previously said on my last video, there's something called superstar syndrome, where a star leaves its former team, and then next year the former team gets better. They start playing well. It happens a lot, you know. Like when Carmelo Anthony left the Knicks, was the Knicks even remotely better when Melo was there? Probably not. They didn't even make they made it past the first round once, and then after that they got clubbered by the Pacers. 2014, I believe. 2013, no, 2014 they got swept by Boston. Came back 2013, got out of the first round by beating Boston, and the next following series they lost against the Pacers, and then obviously the Miami Heat beat the Pacers, and then obviously they went on to win the championship. But yeah, there is something called a superstar syndrome, where, like I said, the superstar leaves the former team, the team gets better, significantly better. All this stats about, oh, Saquon with Saquon, without Saquon, like, the team is still going to function. The team is still going to play the way that they know they're capable of playing. Like, the team will always be ahead of the players. It don't matter how good, better the player is. That's just how the NFL functions. That's how the NFL functions has been for years. They put the team first, the player second. You know, so Saquon Barkley, he had a choice. It's either he stays with the Giants, not getting anywhere, or he goes to a contender and possibly try to make a name for himself, or probably try to win a Super Bowl. You know, because he damn sure wasn't going to win here. With the mess that we have. No, no, like, don't waste your potential. Don't waste your prime years on a bad, mediocre team. Okay. And you don't win the Super Bowl in March. It's a little saying that, if you know, you know. You know, you try to build through the draft. You don't build through free agency. You know, that's why when the Giants went out in that 2016 season and revamped the defense, yeah, they were great, but it didn't sustain. It didn't last. Like, if you go back and look at that playoffs where we got blown out 31-13, you could see why. The defense tried to stay. The defense. Our defense tried to put us in the best position to win that game, but it was just the offense that wasn't clicking all year long, and it showed. Go back and look at that 2016 season. It was our defense. Everybody was keep saying it was Odell. Odell. No, Odell did not win us those games. It was our defense. When we had the lead, when we scored, it was because our defense stopped them when it mattered. Okay? So, like, I have no problem with Saquon Barkley going to the Eagles. Okay? There's a lot of teams that went to their rivals, just to stay within the division, because who wants to go somewhere else, have to move, like, Saquon Barkley is from Philly. He went to Penn State. So, it's kind of like RJ Barrett going back to Canada. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's from Toronto, you know? Like, he went to Duke. Where's Duke? In Toronto. So, people just don't want to make it look like it's, oh my God, he went to the Rivals. It's like going to the Cowboys wouldn't make no sense. Going to the Redskins wouldn't make no sense. I know they're the Commanders, but I still call them the Redskins because I don't like their name. It wouldn't make no sense. So obviously Philly was the no idea, or he could have gone to Pittsburgh. I mean, but he chose to stay within the division. So like people just got to get over it. You know. Now, as for the New York Giants, they were busy. We're heading into week two. No, we are heading into day two of free agency. Um, they, they made some under the radar moves. Not really big splashy moves. But they just pick players here and there to plug up their team. You know, I wasn't found upon. I wasn't happy about they giving up their second round pick to get Burns. Okay, the NFL is going into a frenzy. Like the NFL is going to where it's offense, 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 offense. Offense sells, right? Offense sells games. So the more potent your offense is, the more points you score. Like why are you like if it was a running back or a receiver or a tight end, like I understand, not even a tight end, but just a receiver and a running back, you know, I would understand, or you could have just say, you know what, we're just gonna build in the draft, revamp the draft, or revamp this team through the draft, and that's how the Giants should have approached it. Like, why are you giving the Panthers your 2 second, not two, but they gave them one of the 2 seconds for Burns, right? Like, what is that going to accomplish? You know? Because it's hard enough to play defense. Like, think about it. It's really hard enough to play defense in NFL these days, you know? With the offenses being favorite all the time, you know? Because obviously nobody wants to see a boring defensive game. This is not the 90s, this is not the 80s, this is not the early 2000s no more. We in a new era, new generation where if you want to put up points, if you want to, hang with the big boys, you got to put up points. Defense, they'll do what they have to do, but at the end of the day, offensive offense sells tickets. It sells money. It puts people in butts. Well, it puts people in seats. Like nobody like I remember that one Super Bowl against the Patriots and the Rams. Totally, that was the most boringest Super Bowl I ever saw. Now, mind you, both of them have very good defenses. I think it was like 9-10. That was like the final score. Very low scoring game, very boring game. It was nothing but just defensive juggernauts. Not juggernauts, but a defensive performance. It was the worst Super Bowl I've ever seen. You know, so or do you want Super Bowls like the Seahawks versus the Broncos? You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. So even that game looked like a damn college game. like two professionals. I know the Seahawks was great offensively, but putting 48 points, that was an abysmal Super Bowl. But anyways, the Giants right now, they just have to build through the draft, right? They got a couple of players. They move off of Tyrod Taylor. He went to the Jets. They got Andrew Locke, which he's a okay, decent player, backup player. I thought they was gonna get Mariota, but I guess he wanted more money. you know. But I don't like the free agency picks. I really don't. I'm not really too sold on free agency because at some point they all got to hit the field, right? Build or the draft, which obviously I hope they do because now they only got one second round pick, right? I don't know. That shit is weird. I mean, you know, you you had a chance. The Giants had everything laid out for them. You know, if they had finished with a bad record, they would have been sitting here with the third pick. But they won so many games, they slid down a lot. You know, because their season was already out of reach anyway. So why the f you winning games for? Like that crap don't really mean anything because it's not going to affect next year. Because next year everything gets better. Every team gets better. Draft, free agency. You know what I'm saying? Players move around. Defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators, switch teams. So this year may not be the same as last year. Not every year is going to be the same year. You know? With those two second round picks, they could have picked a running back. You know? And the notion that, you can't replace Saquon Barkley, he hasn't really done anything to be replaced. You know? Like he was here for 6 years. You know what I'm saying? Like 2019, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 20, yeah, 24. So he was here for 6 years. They didn't really do anything special outside of that one playoff game that he had. I mean, players can be replaced. This notion that players can't be replaced, they can. You just have to find the right players to replace them with. You know, like if the Giants were smart, they would have used those two second round picks to draft a running back. It may not have been on their board, but it could have been like the third running back that was on the board, or second, you know what I'm saying? But no, they're trying to focus they're trying to focus on defense, which is not the area you really need to focus on. Because if you really want to focus on an area, focus on offense. The defense was fine last year. Yeah, I know they had some games where, they didn't show up or whatnot, but you know, teams. Like I said before, the NFL is moving into an offensive-driven league. Where you need wide receivers, running back, tight ends, a good quarterback to score points. So if your defense can't stop their opposing offense, at least you can put your will on their defense with your skill players, right? But the Giants don't see it that way. They think, oh, if we just load up on defense, we'll have a great defense, but we'll have a shitty offense because we can't run the ball. Our offensive line sucks. We can't get any separation. We don't have a true number one receiver. Waller has been a huge disappointment. Bellinger, he's been up and down, hurt a lot. So, like, I mean, And what he did, and that's another thing. What Burns did for the Panthers, like just because, like what he did to the Panthers, or what he did for the Panthers, doesn't mean that he's going to contribute the same way, because obviously their system is probably going to be different from our system, and then again he's going to have to learn a whole new other offense defense again, because obviously we fired Wink Martindale, so whoever he replaced him with, he's going to have to come in here and learn a new offense altogether again. Same way if Wink Martindale was still here, he would have had to learn Wink Martindale's system. So, and then on top of that, we still kept Mike Kafka. That's our biggest downfall. We kept Mike Kafka because they're comfortable with the offense. Because if you let go of Mike Kafka and you bring somebody in, guess what? Daniel Jones is going to have to learn a new offense again, right? So I could see why they kept Mike Kafka, because they didn't want Daniel Jones to learn a new offense, right? But what has he learned under Mike Kafka? Literally nothing. Mike Kafka does not open up the plays like, you know, a McVay or a McFleur or a Mike Tomlin or a Brian Dable, you know. Like if Brian Dable was calling the plays, you would see a totally different offense. But I digress because I don't know ish, right? I don't know nothing, right? I'm just a fan. Like I'm not allowed to speak my voice, right? Like I played football for two and a half months. 2.5 months I played football when I was in high school. I was supposed to be a wide receiver, but since I didn't have a speed like a wide receiver, because you have to be fast, separation, this and that, and the third, they switched me to DN, and I excelled in that position. And I was a D lineman throughout my sophomore year, and then I played like 1 year in basketball, and then after that I tore my like ACL and shit, and the doctor said that like yeah I could go all the way, but the chances of them picking you because of your injury history is a little pause the concern. You know what I'm saying? Like you might probably go undrafted as well too, you know, because you're not the only one. There's like 1,000 or 5,000 other players that want to get the opportunity to play. Because it don't really matter how good you are. You have to be available. You know what I'm saying? Um, but yeah, I mean I know football. I just don't try to educate myself on football because now football is all about you know I mean football is not even about football anymore. You know, which is sad because they took in all the fun out of it. That's why these players are retiring. Because the game is not fun anymore. It really isn't. If you sit down and watch all 4 quarters, you can understand why football is not football anymore. It's boring. If you look at football 20 years ago versus now, you would see a totally, completely football team or a football game. You know, like if you look at NBA 10 years ago versus now, totally different. If you look at NBA 20 years ago, 20, you know what I'm saying? Like totally different. You know, like sports have evolved. It has changed for the worse. You know, I think the only sport that's still the same is freaking golf, boxing, MMA, NASCAR. You know what I'm saying? Tennis. Those are the only sports that's still the same. That still plays the same. You know. Um, but if you're looking at team sports like NFL, football, hockey, baseball, it's like they tweak the game so much it's not even watchable anymore. That's why people don't even watch sports. You know, I guess they just wait until like the fourth quarter for something good to happen, and that's it. They don't be watching the first 3/4 of it, unless you're betting. Unless you're doing like parlays and stuff, then yeah, you want to players, hit your goal or whatever. But yeah, I mean, people just need to get over it, man. I mean, people just need to get over it. It happened. That's like T.O. going from the Cowboys to the Eagles, or the Eagles to the Cowboys. One of those two, you know. And T.O. is not even from neither of those teams. He's not from Philly. He's not from Dallas. I think he grew up in the South, somewhere in the South. I think Georgia. Um, So, I mean, stuff happens, Like I said, I wish him nothing but the best. I'm not these Giants fans that, oh, I'm gonna, burn my Saquon Barkley jersey and stuff because they don't know the business aspect. It's not that he didn't want to leave, don't get me wrong. It's the Giants that didn't want to pay him, you know? Like, listen, it's the Giants who didn't want to pay Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley laid out how much he wanted to get paid. The Giants said, you know what? It's not worth it. It's not worth it. You're a great talent, but we could find you a dime a dozen. You know what I'm saying? Like we can go in the second round pick and draft a running back. You know, same thing that they did to Tiki Barber. Obviously Tiki Barber retired. End of the season. You know, it is what it is. But the Giants, like I said, the Giants laid out, okay, this is how we're going to pay you. Like, the Giants probably offered him like 27.4 million and he wanted to bump it up to 37, and then the Giants said, "No. This is our final offer. Leave it or take it." And Saquon Barkley said, "I'm out." Or his agent said, "I'm out." Because every player have their own agent, right? So Saquon Barkley's agent said, "You know what? We don't need this. We can go back home, Philly. They'll welcome you with open arms. We don't need this. You don't need this. You're too good. You need to be on